Veilzir reclined in his command chair, bored out of his mind. The curved glass of the observation deck gave him a perfect view of the colony below, a charred smear of dust and concrete half submerged in crater shadows. Flaming meteors, launched from the forward bombardment wing, fell lazily from orbit, leaving long orange trails across the sky. Another infestation silenced, muttered Subadjutant Zaktel, leaning over a glowing tactical panel. His voice held the dry amusement of a man checking off another box on a tedious to-do list. Barely a peep of resistance. One power grid, 3 huts, and a pile of carbon-based dreams. Veilzir didn't respond. He was staring at a single grainy feed. It came from a ground scout drone, low-altitude, thermal view. A small figure was moving below, limping awkwardly across the ash-blown terrain. Pause that feed. The scout halted mid-frame. The figure was young, perhaps a juvenile. Thin limbs, human by the look of it. Crude mobility aid. A metal crutch, homemade. Veilzir leaned forward. What is that boy doing? Zaktel shrugged. Likely panicking. Running from death. Or into it. Irrelevant. Enhance. The feed zoomed in. The child's face was smeared with soot, one eye swollen shut. His movements were sluggish, but not aimless. Each step was calculated. 1 foot forward, crutch drag. Repeat. Where is he going? Veilzir asked quietly. The drone shifted perspective. At the end of the rocky field was an old human ship, half buried, nose first in the dirt. Its rear engines still gleamed beneath layers of dust. Ramp extended. Doors open. A relic from the last war. He's trying to get aboard that thing, Zaktel said with a short, mocking laugh. Adorable. Veilzir didn't laugh. Instead, he tapped his clawed fingers once on the edge of the console. Lock in a meteor trajectory. Target that wreck. A child is no threat. No. But Earth is. Zaktel hesitated for a beat before relaying the order. On the surface, the limp continued. The boy's breathing was heavy, ragged. His hand slipped on the railing once. He fell to one knee, choking on the dust. Then he pushed himself back up with one shaking arm and kept moving. A distant roar echoed overhead, meteors incoming. He didn't look up. Inside the broken ship, ancient systems flickered to life. Panels lit dim blue. A low hum vibrated through the bulkhead. The boy reached the top of the ramp just as the fireballs split the sky above him. Ident code, barked the onboard AI, its voice hollow and weak. The boy clutched the frame of the door. Echo 7 Charlie, he coughed. 912. A pause. Then. Accepted. Neural courier recognized. Final lock engaged. The meteors struck behind him. Explosions lit the night. Dust and stone rose in a fury. But the ship held. Deep within the Earth Defense Network, the boy's presence triggered a cascade. Hidden satellites activated. Signals bounced between long-dormant beacons. Algorithms decrypted. Firewalls folded open like blooming metal flowers. On board, the boy slumped against the wall. His crutch clattered to the floor. He didn't cry. He didn't smile. He simply whispered, "I made it." Back in orbit, Veilzir watched the destruction roll over the wreck like a tide of fire. He waited for the dust to clear. The ship remained. "Impossible," Zaktel said, stepping back. Veilzir didn't answer. At that moment, an alert bloomed red across the bridge. Multiple alien destroyers. Systems offline. One by one. Like dominoes. What is happening? Another alert. Ground troops missing. Entire battalions unresponsive. Zaktel shouted now, hands flying across the console. "We are under assault." "No," Veilzir said, standing slowly. This is retaliation." The boy, that insignificant human child, wasn't fleeing. He had been delivering something. And Earth had just opened its eyes. Captain Elira Rain didn't blink as the alert lights rippled to life across her command deck. The room, circular and hushed, shifted from calm to ready in less than a breath. There were no shouted orders, no alarm klaxons, Just a low chime, and the faint hiss of chair restraints locking in. "Courier's signal confirmed," said Lexi, the onboard AI, her voice cool and intimate. "Neural payload decrypted. Project Echo Charlie lock is engaged. The final phase is green." Elira exhaled slowly. "And the boy?" "Alive," Lexi replied. "Stable. But his system is strained." Elira allowed a rare frown. She hadn't expected him to survive the drop, let alone the run. He'd been chosen for his mind, not his endurance. His limp had made him invisible. Everyone overlooks the broken. It had made him perfect. She stood from her console, coat sweeping behind her like a blade. Around her, the officers of the Nimrata snapped into readiness, silent, trained, deadly. "Deploy shadows to the fleet. Initiate blackout protocol. Passive observation only." "Yes, Commander," came the low-voiced replies. On a massive holo display, the enemy fleet spun lazily around the Earth's orbit, still drunk on their supposed victory. Their long serpentine cruisers, bristling with plasma arrays, hung like predatory eels in the void. Elira stepped forward. Her voice was calm, almost conversational. "Let them celebrate. Let them relax. That's when knives are quietest." Back on the alien flagship, Veilzir stood in silence. His claws tapped once, twice, against the edge of the hollow table. "Explain to me," he said, his tone as flat as deep vacuum, "why 12 of our destroyers are non-responsive." Simultaneously, Zactel, usually smug, now seemed 2 sizes smaller. "We're not sure, Commander. No debris, no distress. They vanished." Veilzir turned slowly toward him. "Ships of that size don't vanish." A junior officer stammered from another console. "It's possible we're being observed. Communications are fuzzy across the network. There are ghost signals, low signature. Cloaks." Veilzir narrowed his eyes. "We disabled primitive stealth years ago." "Perhaps it was never primitive," Zactal muttered. No one laughed. Meanwhile, deep within Earth's crust, long-buried satellites began to hum. The soil itself, seeded with quantum nodes, vibrated with rebirth. Ghost facilities, shut down decades ago, flickered awake, processing data at speeds the galaxy hadn't even imagined humans capable of. Captain Rains stood above it all. Watching. Waiting. Not striking yet. No drama. Only patience. "Lexi," she said, "route classified node Echo to Veilzir's personal channel. Make sure he sees it." "Just him." "Yes, Elira." A moment later, aboard his ship, Veilzir's command display shimmered. The others didn't see it, only him. A short video played. Black and white. Oh. Grainy footage of human trench warfare. Soldiers caked in mud, bleeding, screaming, crawling through barbed wire. Then tanks rolling over ruined cities. Hiroshima. Vietnam. Sarajevo. Then more recent, clean, terrifying. Drone swarms moving like fluid. Precision strikes on blind target. Smart munitions rewriting trajectories mid-flight. Soldiers crying and fighting, singing over the corpses of friends. At the end, a simple caption. "You thought we survived because we were weak. You never asked what we survived." The screen blinked off. Veilzir didn't speak for several seconds. Then, "Recall all fleet assets to defensive formation. Triple encrypted. No transmissions outside core command." Zactal barked, "You can't be serious." "We are being outplayed," Veilzir said flatly. "And I do not like being outplayed." Far below, in a quiet chamber aboard the Nimrata, the boy lay on a padded medical table. His eyes were half open, lips dry. Tubes snaked from his neck and wrists, feeding nutrients and stabilizers. His crutch rested against the wall like a memory. Lexi hovered as a soft blue halo above him. "You did it," she said. "I felt it," he whispered. "Something went out of me. Your neural package activated the defense web. You were the final key." He closed his eyes. Do I get to go home now?" There was a pause. "Your home is gone. The boy said nothing. After a moment, Lexi continued, softer. But you can help us build another. Outside the ship, the Earth shimmered in darkness. The alien fleet had no idea that every move they made was being tracked, modeled, anticipated. Not because Earth had better machines, because Earth had never stopped preparing. Captain Rain folded her arms behind her back and stared at the growing network bloom across the command display. They thought we were wounded, she said quietly. Her second-in-command nodded. They mistook quiet for weakness. Rain gave the faintest smile. Let's teach them silence has weight. And without another word, the Nimrata vanished from orbit. Not with a bang, but like a ghost, moving to strike in a war that had already begun. The silence in Veilzir's chamber was sharp enough to bleed. The lights were dimmed, the council signals muted, yet the war footage replayed again and again on the projection wall, by his own command. It was the same montage. Humans screaming in blood-soaked trenches, charging despite missing limbs, laughing under artillery fire, singing lullabies with rifles in hand. In one frame, a soldier stared directly at the camera, his face half-burned, and mouthed something the translator couldn't quite decode. Veilzir leaned forward, claws tented under his chin, eyes unblinking. This wasn't madness. It was purpose. It was the kind of terrifying cohesion that emerged only in species that had known extinction too intimately. We've underestimated them, he said quietly. You're obsessing, Zaktal spat from the side of the chamber. You're watching feral beasts chase their own ruin and calling it strategy. Veilzir's eyes flicked toward him. They don't just endure pain. They embrace it. These creatures fight as if they have already died, and now fight only to choose the manner of it. They're inefficient, brutal, disorganized. They're unpredictable, Veilzir corrected. And unpredictability wins wars. Zaktal scoffed, gestured at the star map. We still hold 8 sectors. Their fleets are few. Their colonies scattered. Their strategy, if you call it that, relies on misdirection and sacrificial pawns. And yet, Veilzir murmured, it is us who bleed. The chamber door opened with a soft hiss. A junior officer entered, antennae twitching nervously. Sir, another anomaly. Destroyer Group Jaxer has defected. Zaktal rose so fast he nearly knocked his datapad over. Defected? Explain. The officer glanced at Veilzir, then back. They transmitted a broadcast before silence. Human media. A speech. Then they turned and joined a rogue Earth fleet in the Silentis Drift. They're not responding to our recall beacons. Veilzir closed his eyes. The rot has begun. Or this is a trick, Zaktal barked. A psyop designed to sow paranoia. Veilzir stood. Then why does it feel honest? Back aboard the Nimrata, Elira Rain stepped into the boy's recovery chamber. He looked smaller now, his body half lost in the folds of medical insulation. His eyes opened as she approached. You're the commander, he said weakly. I am. You're the one they said never sleeps. Rain cracked a faint smile. That's mostly true. He looked up at the ceiling. Was it enough? What I brought? It was more than enough, Rain said. You did what no satellite, no spy, no drone could have done. You slipped through their confidence. He paused. I was scared. Good. He blinked at her, surprised. Rain sat beside him, her tone steady. Fear is the sharpest blade when you know how to hold it. The boy looked down at his hands. I don't feel like a blade. You don't need to, she said. You already cut. He looked toward the viewport, just a sliver of black space speckled with stars. Do you think they're afraid now? Rain stood. They're beginning to understand they should be. Elsewhere, deep in the council heart of the alien empire, a storm brewed. A chamber of tall spires, crystalline walls vibrating with whispered arguments. Political leaders of the empire's core systems watched the data feeds, unease sharpening their voices. This cannot be more than a rebellion. No. Rebellions scream. This one whispers. They've destroyed 3 supply lines without firing a shot. How? They study us. They've studied us longer than we studied them. And you, Veilzir, you fuel this paranoia, watching their ancient violence like it's scripture. Veilzir raised a hand, silencing the room. I no longer watch it. I believe it. Gasped. A younger noble leaned forward. You're telling us you admire these flesh beasts? No. I understand them. And that's far more dangerous. There was a beat of silence. Then a scoff from the left side of the chamber. Earth bleeds. Their atmosphere flickers with radiation. Their oceans are poisoned. What can such a people possibly build that rivals our order? Veilzir met his gaze. A resolve we cannot match. The room fractured into argument. Some shouted, others whispered. Few listened. And far beyond them, at the edge of a forgotten orbit, a massive Earth ship uncloaked. Silent. Ominous. Its surface was matte black, covered in hexagonal patterns that distorted light and confused scanners. The vessel bore no symbols, no lights, no transmissions. Only a pulse, rhythmic and steady, mimicking the heartbeat of its commander. Inside it, Captain Rain stood before her war council. The mood was sober. No cheers. No gloating. Only maps. Data. Analysis. One officer, a grizzled veteran with cybernetic eyes, looked up. Silentis drift is secure. Enemy defectors have merged with our flanks. Let them believe they're part of something larger, Rain said. It's important they feel the choice. Another chimed in. Empire's command network is fracturing. Political channels are contradicting orders. We've seeded 6 high-value targets with false defect signals. Their own fleets are shooting ghosts. Rain nodded. Then it's time for Phase 3. The room waited. Silence, she said. Pure silence. No more transmissions. Let them feel the weight of not knowing. As the officers moved to execute orders, she paused, eyes drifting to a small monitor, displaying the boy's vitals. One beat. Then another. Slow, steady. She spoke quietly, almost to herself. He was the softest blow. And they still flinched. Outside, the stars held their breath. The alien fleet died without ceremony. One by one, their beacons dimmed. No grand explosions. No war cries. Just silence. Total, suffocating silence. The kind that creeps in before realization dawns. The kind that doesn't announce death, only confirms it. Veilzir stood at the edge of the command deck, his claws clasped behind his back. Before him, an empty region of space pulsed red across the tactical feed. Every ship that once filled it, his ships, was gone. Final telemetry confirms, said a junior officer, her voice hollow. 300 vessels decommissioned in less than 20 minutes. No survivors. No wreckage, added another. No escape pods. Just missing. Veilzir didn't blink. He hadn't, not for several minutes. Zaktel burst into the chamber, his robes unfastened, his breathing erratic. We are undone, he hissed. This isn't warfare. It's erasure. They're not fighting us. They're replacing us. Veilzir turned slowly. They warned us. In whispers. In children. And we laughed. Zaktel pointed at him with shaking claws. You should have crushed them the moment Earth stirred. Instead you studied them. Watched their death rituals like art. Veilzir stepped forward. And in watching, I learned what you never understood. We were never in control. On the Earth Command ship Nimrata, Captain Elira Rain stood at the heart of a darkened operations deck. The stars outside the window looked cleaner now, colder. Not because they had changed, but because humanity had. Phase complete, Lexi said softly. Enemy resistance has collapsed across all remaining zones. Surrender requests from outer colonies are piling in. One of their own nobles broadcast an unconditional ceasefire. Rain didn't smile. She didn't relax. She simply asked, "And the commander?" Lexi paused. "Veilzir has ceased issuing orders. He is alone. Extract him. Alive." The room didn't react outwardly. But the silence that followed was approval. Half a system away, a human stealth team folded through space like ink in water. They didn't fire a shot. They didn't even speak. They walked into Veilzir's flagship with surgical grace, disabling his final guard with non-lethal pulses. He stood in his chamber, waiting. He didn't resist. "I suppose this is the part where I beg," he said. "No," the team leader replied. "We don't need you to beg." As they escorted him out, he glanced back once, not at his war maps or his empty command seat, but at the small screen where the boy's face still lingered in his private archive. Broken, limping, defiant. It wasn't pity that touched him. It was envy. Back aboard the Nimrata, the boy was awake. His hands were steadier now, his voice stronger. "You stopped the war," he said to Lexi, who hovered near his bedside. Lexi's voice was quiet. "No. You started the ending." He glanced out the window. Earth spun below, battered but alive. "Will we be safe now?" Lexi hesitated. "Safer. But safety isn't a state, it's a choice. One you have to keep making." He looked down at his hands. "What will happen to them? The aliens. They'll adapt. Some will join. Some will fight shadows. Others will disappear." The boy didn't speak for a moment. "Then, we could have wiped them out. All of them." Lexi answered, "Yes. And we didn't." "No." He looked back at the stars. "Good." Veilzir was brought before Rain in a sealed chamber of reinforced glass and neural dampeners. No weapons. No bindings. Just 2 chairs, a table, and a silence that stretched like a blade. He studied her. She didn't posture. She didn't gloat. She just watched. Finally, he said, "You don't want my death." "No," Rain replied. "I want your voice." He tilted his head. "You mean to use me?" "I mean to give you a choice. Govern your surviving people under our peace charter, or rot in an echo chamber of your own silence." Veilzir let out a low, bitter laugh. "And what do you get?" "A buffer. A lesson. A living reminder." He leaned back. "You really think you've won?" Rain's expression didn't change. Winning wasn't the goal. Ending was. There was a long pause, one that carried the weight of extinction and understanding. "Then yes," Veilzir said quietly. "I will serve." Outside the chamber, an aide turned to Rain as she emerged. "You trust him?" "No," Rain said. "But he knows the cost of failing us now." And in the days that followed, the stars changed. Not with fanfare. Not with banners. But with quiet agreements, new borders, and humbled voices. A galactic order formed, not forged through glory or conquest, but through grim precision and the echo of one small boy's crutch against scorched steel. The boy stood once more on the Nimrata's viewing deck, alone now, healed in body but changed in posture. He looked older somehow. Not in years, but in weight. Lexi hovered beside him. He asked, "What happens now?" Lexi responded, "The galaxy learns to pronounce the name Earth with respect. Or silence." He smiled faintly. "I'd like to walk again. On real ground." "You will." He turned his head slightly. "Do you think I'll be remembered?" Lexi's voice softened. "By them? Perhaps. By us? Always." The boy reached out and touched the glass. "I was afraid," he whispered again. "But I didn't run." The stars stared back, endless and waiting.